Alright, folks, it looks like we are live finally. It's closing in on midnight here where we are in the studio, and closing in on 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, where our main weather maker is tonight, Tropical Storm Imelda. So we are once again tracking the storm as it starts to head up the East Coast. And you can see on radar there, see lots of showers, even some lightning strikes out there, occasionally popping up on the radar as Imelda starts to churn northward. And you see these showers, these some cases even thunderstorms rolling into the Carolinas, and we have seen a few problems caused by that. We've seen special marine warnings issued with the potential for water spouts on some of these cells. We've seen some gusty winds, some heavy rain, and all of that is likely to continue over the next couple of days. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch over, and we're going to time this out for you, the rest of the impacts from the storm. So let's do just that. So I'm gonna turn this off, and we're gonna get started. So here we are tracking Imelda on the Red Weatherman YouTube channel. And before I begin, make sure that you like the stream, even if you're on watching from Rumble. Please be sure to like on there as well, and also subscribe both on YouTube and on Rumble. Follow me on Rumble. You can also follow my Facebook page, James's Weather Forecasts. I occasionally post updates to that as well. So I wanna go ahead, without further ado, go ahead and get started. So here's the latest on. I'm not sure what happened there with OBS Studio, but we're gonna continue on as normal. So again, this is the track with Tropical Storm Imelda. From the National Hurricane Center, updated as of the 11 p.m. Eastern Time advisory. So we will be getting another update from the NHC, another intermediate advisory, not an updated track, but an updated current conditions on the storm in about an hour or so. So we may or may not be live for that. We'll see how this goes. But nonetheless, this is the current track with the storm. You can see very quickly it is anticipated that the jet stream picks the storm up and essentially accelerates it off towards the east, as opposed to the northward track that's been on the last couple of days. Okay, and we see that very quickly, and we are starting to see that turn. Okay, now the posted direction has always been north, but we're starting to see that shift from 355 degrees over to 0, and I think as of the latest advisory, it was moved to 10. So we're starting to see this more eastward turn, this very gradual eastward turn of the system from its initial path towards sort of the northwest, or just west of due north, I should say, that it's been on over the last day or two. But we see the storm strengthening, and so and we do actually now. It looks like a direct hit is possible there in Bermuda. We see hurricane watches posted for the island. We also see, and those are likely to be upgraded in the next day or two, probably to a hurricane warning, given the close course that the track is going to be on towards the island. Okay, we still see tropical storm warnings posted in blue for parts of the Bahamas, though those are likely going to be allowed to expire here in the next few hours as the storm starts to pull away, and those winds are coming down, but very slowly there. And we also see gusty winds along the east coast still, and so I want to go ahead and move on forward. But before I do, of course, we also, later on, I just want to point out, as the storm accelerates away from Bermuda, we do start to see it very quickly lose its tropical characteristics as it interacts with the jet stream, and it does look like become extratropical or post-tropical by the end of the day on Thursday, and then it starts to head towards the polar regions of the globe. So But nonetheless, hurricane conditions possible. In fact, you could even say likely in Bermuda. Gusty winds, rain, and rough surf too continue along the East Coast and the Bahamas. And so, and that's we're going to get into more of that in greater detail here shortly. And of course, the storm is expected to be upgraded to hurricane status tomorrow. We are dealing with a very strong tropical storm right now, and it's engulfed, starting to get engulfed into some of that shear associated with the jet stream, but and that is expected to gradually increase over the next couple of days. But there is still a window for it to strengthen before the shear gets too strong and become a hurricane. Now, the National Hurricane Center did adjust its intensity forecast as of the latest advisory, and I really don't blame them for doing that. They adjusted it down. Now it's only expected to become a high-end Category 1 as opposed to a Category 2 as it approaches Bermuda. And I think that's pretty fair forecast to make, given that this thing is kind of stagnated. And so here's the latest on the storm. So that's where it is. It's just off the coast of Florida there. It's Tropical Storm Imelda still as of the 11 p.m. Eastern Time advisory. Again, we do expect that to become Hurricane Imelda. Currently, winds are at 65 miles per hour sustained. Pressure is at 987 millibars. That's actually up 2 millibars since the 8 p.m. update. Okay, so the pressure did rise just a little bit. We also see the storm slowing down ever so slightly north at 8 miles per hour as opposed to 9 at the previous advisory. So slowing down, a little bit of a fluctuation in the barometric pressure. I don't know really what to make of that, other than that could be a little bit of a symptom of it getting engulfed in some of that wind shear. It also could just be sort of a fluke and not really mean much in terms of its overall strengthening potential over the next day or two. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But I also wanted to pull up on satellite. You really don't see too much. You really don't see the shear taking too much of a toll on the storm as of yet. In fact, it actually looks quite a bit even more impressive than its counterpart, Hurricane Humberto, over to its east, which is actually has actually been weakening, and you could probably guess that. It's actually the circulation on Humberto is actually somewhat fallen apart, especially on the northern and western side of it. Perhaps getting into some of the outflow from Tropical Storm Imelda may have a little bit to do with that. Now, some of those outer bands of Humberto are beginning to affect Bermuda, and that will continue over the next couple of days. In preparation or ahead of the more direct impacts from what will be Hurricane Imelda, which is very unfortunate because, unfortunately, we would like to. We typically advise, making preparations in that time before a direct hurricane strike, but unfortunately, Humberto is going to be keeping the weather relatively nasty there in Bermuda ahead of Imelda, so there may not be too much of a window to make those preparations, but nonetheless, there will probably be some breaks here and there that some of those things can be squeezed in. Because again, we are looking at the potential for hurricane force winds over the island as we go through Wednesday night there. And so it's very serious stuff. So let's time it out for you. So here we are going through the early morning hours this morning. You see those winds still gusty and picking up a little bit. You see those winds getting close to tropical storm force there in Charleston as the storm passes by. You see those winds then gradually decreasing after that. Winds remain very gusty over Hamilton, Bermuda, over the island, closing in on tropical storm force pretty much the entire time as Imelda is approaching. We maybe get a few hours where it comes down just a little bit, but nonetheless, as it approaches then, the outer bands of Imelda approach, you see those wind gusts very, very slowly start to ramp up. Okay, you start to see 45, 50. Those winds getting well into tropical storm force, and even approaching 70, 80, even in that 80 to 100 mile per hour category in terms of those maximum wind gusts. And that's what we really have got to watch out for there on the island. Okay, those very strong, those hurricane force wind gusts coming through Wednesday night, and then of course the storm pulls away on Thursday very quickly as it gets wrapped up in the jet stream and those winds start to diminish. So definitely a very serious situation for the island. Another very serious situation, as I mentioned briefly earlier, is the rough surf along the east coast of the United States, as well as Bermuda, as well as the Bahamas, as the storm is still churning. Okay, you still have also the waves from Humberto, in addition to the waves from Imelda. So just a very churned up, rough scenario out there. Very high rip current risk. So this is the risk map for tomorrow, and you see everywhere from Miami all the way up to Maine. You see high risks of rip currents. Okay, so very dangerous conditions out there across the board. Okay, that includes places like St. Augustine, Jacksonville, New Brunswick, um, uh, Myrtle Beach, the Outer Banks, okay, Virginia Beach, even going up Ocean City, Atlantic City, even places around Cape Cod and down East Maine as well, okay. Very dangerous conditions out there and very widespread, so very important to stay out of the water if you can and avoid getting caught in the rip current. If you do, of course, be sure to swim parallel to the shore and let the waves bring you back. Do not try to fight that rip current. You will only tire yourself out, and you'll just tire yourself out and you'll end up losing the battle. So we don't want that. So the best thing is, especially if you see any combination, the single or the double red flag, best advice, just stay out of the water. Even if you don't see the flags, probably best advice just to stay out of the water. Just be very, very, very cautious at the very least. If you do decide to go in, know your risk tolerance, know your own strength, so to speak, and the limits of your strength up against the roaring waters of the Atlantic there. So that's all I really wanted to go through for now. That's pretty much the latest on the storm. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we are going to have the latest on the storm, some additional updates, and we're going to continue tracking it on this channel.
Have you considered a career in meteorology? Would you like to learn how to forecast the weather? Would you like to learn how to take scientific observations from your own backyard? We have courses on the books for that. The Red Weatherman YouTube channel has partnered with Velatroba 24 Ventures to offer several online courses in meteorology. Taught by a live instructor, these courses dive deep into various weather patterns and how observations you can take from your house are integrated into weather maps and forecast models to predict what the atmosphere will do next. For a limited time, some courses are available at 50% off, but that won't last long, so sign up today using the links in the description.
Hey guys, I usually don't do this, but I've been so impressed by this bad boy that I just had to share. So we had an ice storm just a few weeks ago, the biggest one I've ever seen in my life, and our power was out for 18 full hours, and that's crazy with little kids. Luckily, I had bought this thing ahead of time. It's called the Grid Doctor 3300, and I got it from MyPatriotSupply. It's a company I've shopped with a little bit in the past, but this thing is amazing. So like I said, we had the craziest ice storm I've ever seen in my life, and power went out for 18 hours, and it started at 6:30, the power outage. So we got little kids, and as you can imagine, they were just like completely freaked out, and we were able to get this thing going, which I'd never used before. We just got them. So first thing we did is it's got some ports up here. We plugged in a couple of lamps. We gathered the kids around, we explained to them what was going on because of the first power outage that they'd ever seen. They're really little. Yeah, we were able to calm them down because of the light that we had from this thing. But it didn't stop there because we kept using it. So once we had light Next thing we did is we got some heat. So I have an old space heater, but the thing like sucks up power. We brought it in, plugged it in. I wasn't sure if it was gonna run or not, but sure enough, turned the thing on and it ran. So we're able, while our other neighbors, our neighbors all around us were in the dark, freaking out, texting each other, we had light and we had power and our kids were totally calm. In fact, we plugged this thing into our microwave and we were able to make popcorn. We plugged our television in. We had like multiple appliances going. We had like a little movie night. We turned something that's really scary for the kids into this kind of fun little experience. And it was all because this thing was in our home. Yeah, so my wife will tell you I'm a complete dummy when it comes to anything technical, so I was a little bit worried. In fact, I called ahead of time to make sure that this thing had all the features and that I'd be able to run it because it's going to be worthless to us if I can't operate it. And the customer service was super nice, and they assured me that it was super simple, and so I got it in the mail, and sure enough, plug it into a wall outlet. It also has a solar panel, which we didn't end up using in this case because we already had it charged up. But yeah, it ran, and you just plug stuff in and it works. It's amazing. Also, when you get something like this online, you can never be sure, like if you're dealing with some like random company in China. But I called them to ask them about some of the features to make sure that I had everything we needed, and it wouldn't be too hard for me to use. And I was super happy and surprised actually when a person in the United States picked right up. We had a conversation and they were so helpful. They answered all my questions. They even called back once the thing arrived, which by the way, it arrived in like 2 days. It was amazing. They called me back and just to follow up, to see if we had any questions. I am not used to that kind of treatment, even from companies here in the US, so I was super excited about that. So we've been ordering online forever and ever, and this thing was fast, like honestly faster than Amazon Prime. They said 2 days and actually got here that quickly. One of the things that they explained to me when I was on the phone with them is that there is a disaster replacement warranty, which means that if the product, and it's totally free, first of all, but if the product is knocked out in any type of natural disaster, like a big flood or earthquake or whatever, which we do have out here, they'll replace it, and totally free, and it'll last for 25 years. Yeah, I was super thrilled about that. We'll definitely be going back to MyPatriotSupply to purchase more stuff to get prepped because you can never be ready enough. So I would recommend, if you want to get prepared for power outages, this is the unit you need. I've been telling my parents, I've been telling my friends, I'm going to tell you now, like I have absolutely no complaints. Top to bottom was a great experience.
All right, folks, we are back. So I want to quickly transition now back towards the radar screen. And of course, thank you for staying with us through that commercial break. So here's what we got going on. We've got some showers starting to roll in off of the Atlantic in association with Tropical Storm Imelda towards the east coast of Florida. Just south of Jacksonville, talking about places like St. Augustine down towards Palm Coast and Daytona Beach. And in some cases even some gusty winds with these, not anything real spectacular, but definitely something to, definitely going to see some downpours with these as they roll on shore. Nothing that the folks in northeastern Florida are necessarily not accustomed to, but nonetheless might be a little bit disruptive as folks are trying to sleep. So there's that. And as we go further up the coast, you see we have this major band out here, and as we pull up some of these other radars, you see this band just kind of extends pretty good ways offshore. And in some cases, it's even starting to come onshore from around Georgetown, going up towards Myrtle Beach, even going up into North Carolina a little bit around Carolina shores. And this is sort of getting up to the areas where we've had some problems. Okay, it was actually not much further up the coast earlier on. Let me see if I can pull up Morehead City's radar here, and I don't think the warning is going to pop up, but we did have a warning within the last few hours, right in this area right here, for the potential for water spouts. One of these nasty little cells came through over the water like that, and there was some concern, some legitimate concern from the NWS office that there could be some rotation there. So nonetheless, something to watch with these cells. As with any tropical system, you always have to be mindful of that you can get little areas of rotation embedded within the overall rotation of the storm. You've got lots of wind shear, and that, of course, is feeding off of the very warm and soupy air that is present out there this time of year. So it's all the right ingredients for things like that to develop. So anytime you can get some of these nasty storms, okay, and you actually have quite the cell rolling through. It's actually starting to roll in just to the west of Freeland, starting to make its way towards Tabor City and Loris. Right there along the South Carolina, North Carolina border, and that's a pretty heavy cell right there. And that's the thing too, is in some cases we are going to be dealing with some enhanced rainfall. We could see some flooding, both flash flooding and just the rise in these rivers. Could have some river flooding following this storm and its impact. So let's take a look at KDP real quick. Not really too impressive, but still, look, based on what's showing up on the reflectivity, looking at some relatively heavy rain coming down there in that area. So that's kind of the story as these bands and some of these more isolated cells like what you have out here continue to roll on shore. You're gonna see the flood risk come up just a little bit as these keep rolling on shore and dropping more and more rain, especially when you get a storm or a more of a downpour like that. You do run that risk. Okay, so with that being said, so that's what we've got going on. You see these bands just continuously rolling on shore. Within the next 40 minutes or so, we will likely see the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. So as we await that, we'll just continue to monitor the radar just in case anything else happens to come up. Okay, anything else happens to come up that warrants immediate attention. Any kind of special marine warnings, any tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings associated with these cells. And so, and you see even some rain making it all the way inland to the research triangle up there around Raleigh, Durham, that area. So these impacts just aren't exclusive to just the coast either. You've got this rain spreading inland. These bands coming through even more interior locations in North Carolina. And part of that has to do with the fact that this storm is starting to get caught up in the jet stream. Okay, it's starting to get, some of that energy is starting to get sheared northeastward. Okay, and with that, you start to see that whole rain shield just spread along the flow of the jet stream there. So, you do have the potential for very widespread, heavy rain potentially, and just very widespread rainfall from the system. Some of it very much needed, with some of the drought conditions that have been present over the last month or two. But if all of it falls at once, that's also a bad thing, especially when the ground is already dry. It's kind of like, you think of dry ground absorbing rain. It's almost like, how if you take a sponge that is completely dried out, right, and you place it under the sink and just start running water out of the faucet. You turn on the faucet and immediately all that water, it doesn't actually get soaked into the sponge. It just hits the sponge and runs off of it, and it takes a little while before it actually starts to soak into the sponge. So that's essentially what happens with the ground too. It's when it's dry like that, it can't really absorb all that water, all that rainfall coming down. So it has to, it has to, it takes a little while to get it to where it can absorb that water. Okay, but in the meantime, it runs off, and you see it run off into rivers, into low-lying areas, and that poses the risk for both, again, flash flooding and also more long-term river flooding from the system. So that's something to watch as well. And really, the reason I didn't pull up the maps is because really the National Hurricane Center hasn't done the best job, in my opinion, really capturing the rainfall potential along the coast. So I would just say, just in sort of in qualitative terms, more just be aware. And if you see water over the roadways, again, turn around, don't drown. Just don't risk it, especially if you can't even see the road underneath. You don't know if that road even exists still. It could be completely washed out by whatever body of water that is. Okay, especially if it's swift moving. Okay, that road could be completely gone. That bridge could be completely gone. You could just be driving straight into a river or straight into a lake. Okay, and you don't want that. That's how cars flow away. That's how lives get lost. So best thing to do, just turn around, don't drown, and we don't want any deaths attributed to a tropical storm that didn't even make a direct landfall in the United States, and was, again, just a tropical storm. We don't be a statistic of Imelda. Don't be the reason that Imelda has to be potentially retired as a name, because you went out and did something that is ill-advised to do. So. With that being said, let's take a look a little bit further back down the coast. Let's see if we've got any more. Let's see if we've got any. If we go back towards Florida, let's go down to out of curiosity. Let's see Miami's radar. Let's see how things are starting to clear up. So you see, actually, it's pretty much cleared up. You do see some scattered showers moving about from around Port St. Lucie, starting to come on shore. Okay, and perhaps within the next few hours, you may see some of those spin on shore around West Palm Beach, and maybe even getting down towards very long shot, maybe getting down towards Fort Lauderdale, but. You also see some rain still coming down to the northwest Freeport and the Bahamas. Okay, but largely speaking, the storm is pulling away. Now let's see, though. I want to pull up the velocity map, see if we can. Okay, that's not very helpful. So let's try Whoops. Well, there goes the radar. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to commercial break. So we're going to go back to commercial break, and I am going to grab the charger for the computer. This, tell you what, this night is just full of things not working. I'm not sure why. So, but nonetheless, there we go. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Have you considered a career in meteorology? Would you like to learn how to forecast the weather? Would you like to learn how to take scientific observations from your own backyard? We have courses on the books for that. The Red Weatherman YouTube channel has partnered with Velatrova 24 Ventures to offer several online courses in meteorology. Taught by a live instructor, these courses dive deep into various weather patterns and how observations you can take from your house are integrated into weather maps and forecast models to predict what the atmosphere will do next. For a limited time, some courses are available at 50% off, but that won't last long, so sign up today using the links in the description.
Hey guys, I usually don't do this, but I've been so impressed by this bad boy that I just had to to share. So we had an ice storm just a few weeks ago, the biggest one I've ever seen in my life, and our power was out for 18 full hours, and that's crazy with little kids. Luckily, I had bought this thing ahead of time. It's called the Grid Doctor 3300, and I got it from MyPatriotSupply. It's a company I've shopped with a little bit in the past, but this thing is amazing. So like I said, we had the craziest ice storm I've ever seen in my life, and power went out for 18 hours, and it started at 6:30, the power outage. So we got little kids, and as you can imagine, they were just like completely freaked out, and we were able to get this thing going, which I'd never used before. We just got it. So first thing we did is it's got some ports up here. We plugged in a couple of lamps. We gathered the kids around. We explained to them what was going on because it was the first power outage that they'd ever seen. They're really little. Yeah, we were able to calm them down because of the light that we had from this thing. But it didn't stop there because we kept using it. So once we had light, next thing we did is we got some heat. So I have an old space heater, but the thing like sucks up power. We brought it in, plugged it in. I wasn't sure if it was going to run or not, but sure enough, turned the thing on and it ran. So we're able, while our other neighbors, our neighbors all around us were in the dark, freaking out, texting each other, we had light and we had power and our kids were totally calm. In fact, we plugged this thing into our microwave and we were able to make popcorn. We plugged our television in. We have like multiple appliances going. We had like a little movie night. We turned something that's really scary for the kids into this kind of fun little experience. And it was all because this thing was in our home. Yeah, so my wife will tell you I'm a complete dummy when it comes to anything technical, so I was a little bit worried. In fact, I called ahead of time to make sure that this thing had all the features and that I'd be able to run it because it's going to be worthless to us if I can't operate it. And the customer service was super nice, and they assured me that it was super simple, and so I got it in the mail, and sure enough, you plug it into a wall outlet. It also has a solar panel, which we didn't end up using in this case because we already had it charged up. But yeah, it ran, and just plug stuff in and it works. It's amazing. Also, when you get something like this online, you can never be sure, like if you're dealing with some like random company in China, but I called them to ask them about some of the features to make sure that I had everything we needed and it wouldn't be too hard for me to use. And I was super happy and surprised actually when a person in the United States picked right up. We had a conversation and they were so helpful. They answered all my questions. They even called back once the thing arrived, which by the way, it arrived in like 2 days. It was amazing. They called me back and just to follow up, to see if we had any questions. I am not used to that kind of treatment, even from companies here in the U.S., so I was super excited about that. So we've been ordering online forever and ever, and this thing was fast, like honestly faster than Amazon Prime. They said 2 days and actually got here that quickly. One of the things that they explained to me when I was on the phone with them is that there is a disaster replacement warranty, which means that if the product, and it's totally free, first of all, but if the product is knocked out in any type of natural disaster, like a big flood or earthquake or whatever, which we do have out here, they'll replace it and totally free, and it'll last for 25 years. Yeah, I was super thrilled about that. We'll definitely be going back to My Patriot Supply to purchase more stuff to get prepped because you can never be ready enough. So I would recommend, if you want to get prepared for power outages, this is the unit you need. I've been telling my parents, I've been telling my friends, I'm going to tell you now, like I have absolutely no complaints. Top to bottom was a great experience.
All right, folks, we are back on the Red Weatherman YouTube channel. We are back and we are continuing to monitor these rain bands that are spiraling towards the coast of Florida. So as we continue our coverage here, we can see these little isolated convective showers rolling in off the Atlantic, sort of ahead of and almost seemingly coming out of this more intensive band, more directly associated with the storm itself. But you see these moisture areas here just moving onshore, places all the way again from around St. Augustine, Palm Coast, running down the Florida Peninsula down towards Daytona Beach, and even points farther south than that. You can see again some of these starting to roll in. Not too heavy of rain, so really just a little bit of a of a dusting of a shower or two is really all you're going to see from these. But nonetheless, that is what's going on. Again, the main circulation spinning off towards the east is now, as you can see, the rain has for the most part ended there in the Bahamas. Those winds are finally starting to come down, but they're going to be going up as we go forward in time in other places like Bermuda. So again, let's go back up for just to kind of recap. So let me go back to the beginning, and actually, I don't want to do that. Okay, so let's kind of recap the. Okay, so let's go back, and I want to present from this slide. So again, here's the latest track on Tropical Storm Imelda, and this is the latest on the storm. So this is the latest track that they've put out. So you see the storm making a very dangerously close pass to Bermuda. Okay, on Wednesday night. So we've got about 36 hours or so preparation time for the island of Bermuda, and so and in that amount of time, you really don't have a great window to make those preparations, and the reason being is because this is not occurring in a vacuum. Okay, you've got Hurricane Humberto also offshore. Now it's going to stay offshore, but those outer bands, some of them are already affecting Bermuda and will continue to affect Bermuda, and and over the next day or two, in the time that folks would normally prepare for a storm, okay, for a direct hit. So let's time that out for you once again. So again, here's the latest on the storm: 65 mile per hour sustained winds, pressure at 987 millibars, and moving to the north at 8 miles per hour. And with that being said, here again, there's a storm on satellite. You can see. You can see Imelda over here and also Humberto over here, and you can see some of those outer bands starting to spin into the island of Bermuda there and producing some gusty winds as it does that. And so here's what we've got going on. You see winds currently gusting to around 35 to 40 miles per hour. Also getting pretty gusty along portions of the southeast United States coastline there as we go through our Tuesday. Okay, even approaching tropical storm force in places like Charleston due to that pressure gradient. And again, as the storm slowly starts to get picked up, I should say, by the jet stream and moved off towards the east, you see those winds come down along the southeast U.S. coast, but they start to rise as the storm approaches Bermuda there. Okay, you see those winds really staying pretty steady as the outer bands from Humberto continue to affect the island, and you see those winds really start to rise as the outer bands of Imelda come in there, and you see winds occasionally even approaching 100 miles per hour, perhaps, as far as wind gusts there, as the eye wall comes ashore on the island, and then the winds very quickly diminish as the storm rapidly pulls away as it gets picked up by the jet stream, and the circulation will also be beginning to fall apart as it does so, as that jet stream starts to rip it apart. So there's that. And of course, again, can't forget the hazard of the rip currents there, extending all the way from South Florida, going all the way up into places like New Jersey, around New Jersey, New York City area. Very high risk, almost consistently up the coastline there. Anything that directly any beach that directly faces the Atlantic, you're talking about a high risk for rip currents, as both these storms spin offshore and produce very very high wave heights there. And then you also see even places like Nantucket going up towards Chatham and Provincetown. Okay, you see the high risk there, as well as portions of down east Maine and the Portland area. Okay, again, once again, that high risk. So really across the board, seeing a lot of those high risk areas. So it's just crucial to stay out of the water tomorrow. Or I should say, really, it's today now. Now we're, I think, especially on the East Coast, we're definitely getting into Tuesday now. But nonetheless, as we go through the day, it's very important to stay out of the water and just go. If you want to enjoy the beach, but just be very careful out there in that surf. So and really, again, just stay out of the water is the best bet there. So again, we continue to await the latest update on Imelda from the National Hurricane Center, and I think we'll go ahead and we'll stay live just so that we can stream it live for you as it comes in. But nonetheless, this is what the radar looks like. Okay. This is what the radar looks like, and you can see again the storm spinning offshore, but not really too many impacts, at least to the United States so far. The storm has remained, at least the core of it has remained well offshore, and it's just not that strong of a storm to really have real serious impacts. Though nonetheless, there are some impacts to be felt from some of these outer bands as they spin ashore. And so we're going to continue to monitor that on this channel. Again, pull up some of these other radar sites and see what we can get pulled in there as far as the latest on the storm. Again, some of those showers starting to make their way in. Again, this is so up here you have St. Augustine, points southward. Very soon going to get affected by this little downpour off the coastline here, as well as some of these others trailing in behind it. So just little things like that we'll have to watch. Again, bringing in perhaps also some gusty winds as the storms or as these little clusters come on shore. But nonetheless, that's pretty much the wrap with the storm at the moment. There's really just not a whole lot of direct impacts to the United States, and I don't think anybody is particularly complaining about that. But again, we're going to continue to monitor the storm and its impacts, for a little while at least, and just make sure that nothing happens. Because again, sometimes these bands do get a little bit intense, okay, and we see these bands get just a little bit intense, and sometimes they do warrant something like a special marine warning, okay, something like even sometimes you can get enough spin to warrant a tornado warning if it comes on land and it's spinning enough. Has enough rotation along with it within the cell itself. Okay, sometimes you can get tornado warnings. Sometimes you can get tornadoes within the broader circulation of a hurricane or of a tropical storm. Okay, that's not out of the picture, and that happens a lot. Now, it's typically in the front right quadrant, which nowhere in the United States is. But again, any of these outer bands can still produce one of those. Even though the risk isn't particularly heightened, it can still happen. So that's something that we have to watch out for. So with that being said, again, we're going to continue to monitor this. I'm going to have to take a break here in a moment to go and get my charger for my other computer, because apparently everything is starting to get to that point where everything just wants to die. So that's that. So let's see, what can we You know what? We'll just let the we'll let the radar play in silence there, and I will be back shortly. All right, folks, we are back, so should be good to go now. Just about everything is plugged in some way, shape, or form. It seems like so. Everything just apparently wanted to die on me on this stream, which is very unfortunate. But we're making do, and you know, fortunately, sometimes that happens. We have technical difficulties, and you know, batteries run out, batteries die, so that has to be taken care of. But nonetheless, we are going to continue monitoring Tropical Storm Imelda on this channel. And I wanted to, you know, obviously we've been checking. I've been checking the National Hurricane Center's website. Still no 2 a.m. advisory on the storm just yet, but we will bring that to you as soon as it comes in. And so we'll just we'll continue to monitor the radar there. And let me see if I can get. Let's see if we can get some other things up so I can show you. Let's see here. So again, while we have obviously the we have Tropical Storm Imelda, we also have Hurricane Humberto in the further out in the Atlantic. Okay, you know, so we have these storms, and let me pull the radar off for just a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and minimize that. So, you know, here's kind of what we've got going on right now. I'm actually going to switch over to the Euro model because GFS has kind of busted the initial forecast, so I don't know how reliable necessarily of a model it would be as opposed to the Euro seems to be handling at least Imelda a little bit better. Okay, so we'll just kind of use that for initial conditions there. And of course, if you'd like to learn more, just like in the advertisements, if you'd like to learn more as to why initial conditions are important in modeling, feel free to sign up for any of the courses in the description below. And again, for a limited time, you can receive 50% off if you sign up before the courses start. So definitely take advantage of that. Again, the link is in the description of the stream. But nonetheless, here's what we've got going on. So of course we've got Imelda, and then Category 3 Hurricane Humberto out here further out in the Atlantic. So you can see here's the island of Bermuda right there. So you can see it gets brushed by a lot of these more eastern outer bands of the storm. Okay, and also you see rain continuing to fall over the southeastern United States. But you also see the summer pattern not really going anywhere for the rest of the country. Okay, you see these, you see just nothing really happens. That boring summertime pattern, and if you like the warm weather, you know it's definitely welcome. But if you don't, if you like the cooler weather, it's a little bit of a disappointment, especially up there in the Midwest. Very very unseasonably warm weather has persisted up there. Now there is some speculation as to when that could finally end. But there's no real clear answer from the models, which is kind of astounding. But there is at least some consensus that at some point this upcoming weekend, you do see some kind of a low develop over the lee side of the Rockies, and it tracks through the upper plains, upper Midwest. Okay, and with that, you do see a cold front develop with it. It's not drawn on here, but you can essentially envision it right here. Okay, and it starts to sweep through the plains in the Midwest. So that will, of course, drop some temperatures. Lead to some cooler conditions start to take hold as we go through the early part of next week. Okay. Assuming that holds, okay, we are still a good ways out, so that could definitely change. It probably will change a little bit, but there does seem to be some consensus now that around October 5th or so, we are dealing with some kind of a system developing like that, which could start to bring conditions that are normally what you would normally see around the beginning of fall. Okay, actually bring that about. So we'll just have to see. We may see some temperatures drop, so now's a good time. Go ahead and get you some clothes, get you some some fall jackets and things if you need one. Now's a good time to go ahead and take care of that. And of course, there are links in the description of the video, or the description of the stream, I should say, to some retailers that you can utilize those to go shopping and perhaps order some apparel from them, and also help the channel out while you're at it. So there's that, and then of course as well, that's unfortunately as far as that run of the Euro goes, because it's only the 18Z run. Still haven't gotten the 0Z run yet from the Euro model, so that probably won't come in for a couple of hours. But nonetheless, let's switch. We're going to switch back to the radar. And so this is what we've got going on out there. You see the circulation just offshore. Okay, you see the circulation offshore. You see some of these more isolated convective cells starting to push onshore in the Florida Peninsula. So we're watching that just in case some rotation happens with those. Maybe a warning or two gets slapped on there. But nonetheless, not really too many direct impacts again to the continental United States. I'm going to continue to check the National Hurricane Center's website, and just in case it looks like we may actually have some updates. Wow. Okay. So let's see here. Let's see if we can get this in. Okay. So bear with me, folks. We do have the latest advisory coming in as we speak. So let's see if we can get that up here in just a minute or so. And again, thank you for tuning in, to everyone who's tuned in. And of course, be sure to like the stream down below, whether you're watching from YouTube or you're watching the replay on Rumble. Okay, make sure that you, regardless, make sure that you like the stream down below and subscribe, and follow me if you are on Rumble. so let me make sure there aren't any major, before I put this on, make sure that everything is accurate there. So okay, so let's see here. See if we can get this back on. Okay, we're gonna switch this over once more. Okay, so again, the track has not changed as of the 2 a.m. advisory. Still same track. This is just an intermediate update from the National Hurricane Center. But here's the latest on the storm. Again, it's still Tropical Storm Imelda. Has not gotten upgraded to a hurricane yet, but here is the latest advisory as of 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Just came in from the National Hurricane Center. Okay, winds still at 65 miles per hour, but the pressure has dropped 4 millibars in the last 3 hours, so that could be indicative of some strengthening. And again, these storms do tend to experience a sudden pressure drop and some strengthening that can occur in those early morning hours. So that is not out of the picture. So we may see the storm itself get upgraded here within the next few hours. We also again, we start to see that storm slow down a little bit too. We see the forward speed slowing down now to 7 miles per hour, which is a little bit against what we would think would happen, because again, the storm is starting to get picked up by that jet stream. You would think that that would accelerate it away, but no, it's actually decelerating a little bit. But I think that trend won't necessarily hold. But nonetheless, that's what we have going on. So slowing down to 7 miles per hour. Let's see. Okay, still maintaining 10 degrees or a northward movement. Okay, so it's not shifting any further to the east, just decelerating a little bit is all that has really happened there. And again, that pressure drop has also occurred, which could indicate some strengthening. Again, the last time we really saw that much of a pressure drop all of a sudden like that, at least that I can recollect with the storm so far, is when it was upgraded from a depression to a tropical storm. So could we see it now get upgraded from a tropical storm to a hurricane? It's almost there at 65 miles per hour. It's only got 9 more to go there till it hits that 74 mile per hour threshold to become a Category 1 hurricane. But nonetheless, you know, the impacts again don't really change too much. So, you know, again, timing it out for you. Again, you see those winds gradually start to come up close to tropical storm force, especially in places like Charleston and even Jacksonville, getting pretty gusty there as well. And then the storm starts to pull away during the afternoon hours and the evening hours, okay? But then it starts to slowly approach Bermuda, and you see those winds, you know, pretty gusty out ahead of that, even, you know, pretty consistently even through the day today, because of the outer bands of Humberto affecting it. And then the real mess for Bermuda starts tomorrow afternoon. Okay, Wednesday afternoon, you start to see those winds slowly ramp up, 40, 50 miles per hour wind gusts, okay, starting to increase. And you see those winds even getting up to hurricane force in terms of the gusts, even closing in on 100 miles per hour, that 80 to 100 mile per hour range late tomorrow night, okay? And that's going to be a huge concern for the island. So definitely now's the time to prepare when you can, when you get those breaks from the outer bands of Humberto. Then the storm gets carried off by the jet stream, pulls away, and those winds quickly diminish. And again, you have the ongoing rip current hazards. Okay, you have the rip current hazards that have been extended pretty significantly. Again, when we streamed Sunday night, of course, the you know, the rip current risk was pretty much contained. Really didn't go much further than Virginia Beach. Okay, it was pretty much from Miami up through Virginia Beach. now it has extended to encompass most of the East Coast now, at least in the United States. And I would imagine if these maps covered parts of Canada, you would probably see a similar story up there in Nova Scotia as well, but we don't have that data, unfortunately. But nonetheless, very high risk out there. Any Atlantic-facing beach, they're definitely going to be rough surf, very steep drop-offs in the sand. As those waves have just been carving out the beach there, eroding that sand away. You're going to see 2 to 3 to 4 foot drops at least, probably, especially with both of these hurricanes spinning offshore and churning up the surf. So best thing is just stay out of the water. Really, just these next couple of days just not going to be the best beach days. They're really just not. They're not going to be the best beach days especially not for going out in the water, unless you really are into surfing the big waves. But if you're just an average swimmer, it would be probably more advisable to stay out of the water completely. Okay. So that's that. I'm going to really quickly go back to the radar, and we're going to see if there's anything else going on, and then I think we're probably going to wrap up the stream. But let's see really quick. Let's see what kind of updates we've got going on there. So again, some of these showers that we've been tracking off the coast of northeastern Florida starting to come in now to places like Daytona Beach. Okay, points northward of there along the I-95 corridor from Daytona Beach, Port Orange, going up towards Palm Coast. Okay, that rain shower starting to come on shore. And it looks like it's even dissipated just a little bit, so but nonetheless still could be packing a few downpours there, and so will some of these other cells as they come on shore. So we'll just have to continue to monitor that. But nonetheless, that's essentially what we've got going on there. You see the main part of the storm still spinning offshore, and I think with that, there's really not much more news to report on that front. So thank you everyone who tuned in. Make sure that you make sure that you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure that you share the stream with your friends and family, especially if they live in the affected path of either of these storms. Okay, and with that, everyone have a good night, and of course prayers for our country as we go through these very trying times as a nation. All these mass shootings and assassinations and things that have taken place over the last few weeks. So just prayers over all this as these disasters, whether they're natural disasters or more political stuff. Just prayers over all this going forward. But with that, everyone have a good night and stay safe out there.